Now, we talked before about how the law of causation is not something, again, that exists outside the world, but is, I guess, an artifact of how we come to use our reason to understand the world itself. So just as the world has its laws, like the law of gravity or the law of momentum, these are things that through our empirical experience of the world, they're never broken. They always seem to add up, especially if you look at the math. So one question that we want to look at that Kant actually tries to argue is that, is there any moral law? Now, a moral law comes down to what is good or what is bad. In certain situations, you need to make actions, and you want to make the right actions. Sometimes you might hear the statement, you ought to do this. That is kind of a moral imperative. What does it even mean to say that a moral law could exist? Well, we would have to say that it exists unconditionally. Just like the law of causation, cause and effect doesn't just happen sometimes, it happens absolutely. Let's say I go to the store and I pick up some Oreos, and instead of paying for them, I steal them. And we say that conventionally this is immoral. But why is it immoral? Well, we could say that stealing is just objectively bad. You should never steal something. But why? Maybe you were brought up in a way such that you stole something and your parents scolded you for it, or your friends looked down on you when you did something like that. And so, trained over time, you decided that you should never, ever steal something. However, Kant would argue that this argument is wrong because you learn that through experience. The law of causation, we don't learn through experience. According to Kant, the law of causation is presupposed in our understanding of the world. So there must be some other reason why we think shoplifting or stealing is bad. Now, Kant writes a lot about this, and I don't want to simplify him, but to give the short answer, he comes up with something called the categorical imperative. And what he says in this categorical imperative is that you should only will maxims to which you believe they become universal in the world. Or said in other words, if what you did, the principles that you acted upon, if everybody started acting on those principles, would the world still function? Would it still be a world that you would want to be in? Now, there's probably better ways to say that, but let's just consider the shoplifting example. If everybody went to the store and shoplifted, what would the world look like? Well, the store would definitely go out of business, and then no one would be able to go to the store anymore, and then no one would be able to shoplift anymore. So the law itself is inconsistent. Another form of this rule, or another way of looking at it, is something called the golden rule, which means you should treat others as if you would want to be treated. If you think about it from Kant's categorical imperative point of view, you would say that act towards others as if you were acting universally towards yourself. So I guess if you're acting on your own principles, assuming that you cloned yourself and everybody in the world was a clone of you and acted on those same principles, the world would still continue to function in a moral way. And one of the points that Kant reiterates throughout his work is that what derives a moral law is not the effects of what happens due to your actions, because those are conditional of the world. Again, we want to think that something that is a priori, pre-experience, just like the law of causation is not something that exists because the world functions in a certain way, but the law of causation, like the categorical imperative, the law of morality, works because we presuppose the world we presuppose the world in a way through our reason to be able to intelligently navigate it.